Hello, hello, hello. Okay, if I did this right, we are now correctly live for my second hour of talks as part of the AuthorTube 2025 Writing Conference. This session is specifically about Laterpress and learning how to make direct sales easy and simple to set up and a part of your personal author process. My name is Nate Gillick. If you're just tuning in, I am the marketing and community lead for Laterpress. I have been with Laterpress since March of 2022. Absolutely love my job. It is a total dream to be able to talk with other authors every single day about writing and publishing books. The Venn diagram of my personal interests as an indie author and what I would need to know for this job is practically a circle. I'm very, very happy with where I am. I am an author myself. My debut novel, Welcome to the Nexus, is going to be officially released on July 15th. The final version of the book is available right now through Laterpress. So anybody who buys the book gets to read the version that is going to be more conventionally published before it is more conventionally published. So in this session, I'm going to be talking about what Laterpress is, how we work. I'm going to be walking you through all of the elements of the platform that are publicly available. I'm not going to be really dedicating much time to features that are in closed beta. I want to show everybody, if you are creating an account with Laterpress today, here's how our platform works. Here's what you can do with it. So one important thing to know about Laterpress, we are built with direct sales in mind. And that means that if you are going to use us to publish your fiction and make it available for folks, I'm very honest in setting an expectation with folks that most of the traffic you drive to your books is going to be traffic you brought there, not the platform doing the heavy lifting of bringing eyeballs to you. And that is a big part of the reason why we take no platform fees on your direct sales. We know selling fiction is work. If you did the work of bringing in a reader, we want you to be rewarded for that. There is payment processing fees on sales. We use Stripe as our payment processor. I think their rate is 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. To math that out for folks, I have my book priced at $4.99, which is the same price it will be as a final ebook conventionally. If somebody buys that, then after Stripe's fee, it's something like $4.35 is what hits my bank account. And if you go through Amazon KDP with their 70% structure, it's more like $3.50 is what hits your bank account. So we're talking about 80 cents per book difference, which, 80 cents, maybe not the biggest deal for one book, but the more you can scale that up, the bigger a difference that is going to be for you. So how I like to start describing Laterpress and showing things off is I intentionally like to work backwards and start with the end product before talking about how you can set things up. So what does Laterpress look like from a reader's perspective, and how might anyone find it? And so I wanted to go over to Dale Roberts' website, another one of our fine speakers for this show, and use Dale's site as an example. So if you go selfpublishingwithdale.com, and over on his books page, he's got all of his books, and you can click on a book to go to it. And down here, Sci-Fi Horror by Dale, if someone clicks the cover of this here, up comes Season 1 of Infestate by Dale Roberts. You can look at the blurb for his book and click the Read Now button, which my webcam is obscuring. Click Read Now there, and you are off to the races. And so here's his book. You can page left and right to tab through that. And I want to see if I'm logged in or not. Okay, I'm not logged in. That is actually good for us here. So chapter 1 is a free preview, and I'm reading this not logged. I know it's a free preview because I am not logged into an account and I am able to read it. If Dale had set this as you need to pay to be able to read chapter 1, I would have hit a paywall. Now we offer readers some controls here. You can change the font size. So if I want bigger font, I can make that bigger. And I can shrink that down. I can change the font if I want. I can change the line spacing. And I can change my background experience. Do I want to read in a light mode? Do I want to read in gray mode? So readers can customize what this looks like to their satisfaction. And if readers go here into the table of contents, we can see here Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and now here at Chapter 4 is the lock icon. This is how readers would know, okay, the free preview is over now. If you want to keep reading, you need to create an account, log in, and pay to access content. So if I go here, click on Chapter 4, it's going to prompt me to log in and enter a password, and then we would go. I'm going to, just to avoid accidentally showing off a password or something, I'm going to switch over to this mode real quick. Log in, make sure nothing is shown that shouldn't be. Okay, and so once we're logged in here, readers would see this, subscribe to unlock the book. $20 a year unlocks access to all of an author's books, or buy the entire book for a one-time fee. Continue to checkout. And then again, I'm not going to put anything in here to unintentionally reveal my personal information, but this is where somebody can enter a credit card number, their name, all of that, and pay to unlock a book. And you are now off to the races reading. Now that I am logged in, I'm going to show you. So if somebody reads a book through Laterpress and they now have an account, when they click the menu here, you can go to the bookshelf. And on the bookshelf, readers can see every book through Laterpress that they have started reading. So here's my book, books by Nia Quinn, Sigils and Sushi, another one of mine. So I can, and you can click load more to keep seeing all of the books that you have read. And I have a lot. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but as you can see here, I can keep clicking and seeing more of the books that are in my bookshelf, and then click on one of those to go and read it. At the bottom here, readers will see recommendations. Recommendations are based on the genre of the book that they are currently reading. So this one being horror, you're going to see some other horror-themed books. And so somebody can scroll through here and find a different book and start reading. And this is where our community fees kick in. If somebody clicks from Dale's book, like let's say I went from Dale's book to Grim Birds, okay? And now I'm reading Grim Birds. What happens if I buy this? Laterpress has a 15%, 10 to 15% fees when our community features lead to a sale. So what happens is if I buy Grim Birds now, 15% of the purchase price is going to be taken out of that. The author's only going to get 85%. 10% goes to Laterpress as our profit for helping facilitate the sale through our community features. 5% goes to the author whose book led to another sale, which means if I read Dale's book and then I go from Dale to purchase Novi's book Grim Birds here, Dale is going to get 5% of the purchase price. So think about, on Amazon, if somebody is reading your books and you are driving traffic to other similar people's books, sure, that author's making their sale, but Amazon's getting a huge piece of that action. Through our platform, if your books are leading to other authors making money, you are getting a piece of that. Laterpress is getting a piece of that as our fee for referrals and recommendations, and the author's making 85%. And again, that only kicks in when our recommendation features led to the sale. If that didn't happen, an author is making 100%. We designed this to be kind of a rising tide lifts all boats situation. We're only making money on published fiction on our platform if we are helping authors grow their audience. You having your books on the platform, you are getting a piece of the action if you are indirectly helping other authors as well. Everybody's making everybody better. I have been, I started with the job March 2022, and thus far I have yet to anybody complain about that monetization structure, because your worst day, financially speaking, is having a 15% cut from the sale, and that only happened when you got a sale you weren't otherwise going to get. Like, I would give up 15% of a sale all day, every day, if somebody else did the work of making it happen for me. So, I think it's a very fair model and way to do things. And so if I go back into the bookshelf here, I want to show a different example. Let's go to my book here. And my webcam is obscuring this, so I'm going to turn my webcam off for a second. As you can see here, besides an online reading experience, we give authors the option to make their book available as a downloadable EPUB. And so this is gated. To be able to download an EPUB, somebody has to have created an account, logged in, and paid for the book. We run all of those checks, so somebody cannot just click that button and download a copy of a book that they have not paid for. That said, we do not add any additional DRM to an ebook. So again, being very honest and transparent with people, we do not have any systems in place that stop somebody who legally purchased your book from then turning pirate and sending it to other people. So if you are super, super concerned about piracy, then I would recommend not making your book available as a download. Just leave it as readable online for someone who paid for it. But I love having the book available as a download so that somebody can purchase the book from me direct, just download it, and then if they want to send it to their Kindle and start reading that way, they're absolutely available and able to do that. But now if I go into my bookshelf here, you'll note more stories from the Planner Gates. It's going to show other books in the same series. And now you'll see the recommendations look different because these recommendations are based on fantasy. And so now we're seeing other similar titles in a similar genre here. And this is going to be a little bit thinner selection because when you've started reading something, it no longer shows in recommendations. It's going to show in your bookshelf instead. So, for example, Banshees and Boba isn't going to show up in recommendations anymore because I am reading it and it's now on my bookshelf. So hopefully that is straightforward enough and makes sense. On any individual author, if you click My Account, you are able to see if you are subscribed to an author's emails. This is a slider. You can toggle it on or off. If you are opted into an author's emails, then they have permission to add you to their emailing list, and you will also automatically receive updates every time a new chapter is published by that author if they send out a notification. And you can also see your entire purchase history with an author. So you know, okay, am I subscribed? Yes, no. Is it still live? Did I cancel that subscription? What's going on? And you can manage all of that right here. It's a very nice and easy system. If a book has any ratings or reviews, you would notice that there. And a note on ratings and reviews. If your book is in community recommendations, then you do have to have ratings and reviews enabled. There's no way to turn that off. If you do not want reviews showing on your book, you would have to turn off community features. And I will show that in the account. We do not make anybody have community features to be findable in these recommendations if you don't want. You could still continue to set up your books for free, publish for free, get free direct sales, but nobody else is going to find your book in these systems because you've chosen to opt out of that. So I'm going to get back to the Laterpress site here. I'm going to do a quick check for any questions before I show off from an author's perspective. How does all of this work? How do you set things up? Author Casey McCoy will be working on anti-piracy in the future. that is not a priority for us right now. So again, I would say, if you are concerned about that, you are not required to make ebooks available for downloads. So if you're worried about that, I would only do an online version, because we do not set up DRM, and that's not on our roadmap to introduce or insert anything. Penumbra, do you have the genre popularity ratios, i.e. which genres are selling better or worse? I don't have sales figures in front of me. As far as book counts go, we are mostly, I should turn my webcam back on so you can see me. We are mostly right now in romance and fantasy. And I don't mean romantasy, I mean those as two distinct genres. But we are open to fiction, nonfiction, all kinds of genres. Anybody who wants to use us can use us. But there's a lot of romance writers, and I have, being a fantasy writer myself, I have a bias towards fantasy. That's kind of a lot of the people we've recruited early on, but all genres are welcome. Designed with a purpose. Does Laterpress have a phone app available? Not yet, but we are in active development on one. So there will be a day in the future where readers can download a Laterpress app on their phones and read fiction that way. That app is also going to be the vehicle we use for audiobooks. Audiobooks are also on the roadmap, and we plan to, I cannot go into the specs yet on that because that is further down the line, but we are planning to have audiobook streaming support available in that app so that if books have an audio version available, readers could listen to it through an app. So that is something we are working on. And sorry if I'm missing any other questions here. I will try to return for those for more questions at the end. And I should point out here before I get into my account, resources here on the Laterpress site, getting started, and a help center here. We have lots of articles on how different things work, how to rearrange chapters, how to schedule things, how to create subscription renewal reminders in Stripe, so Laterpress FAQ. So if you do have any questions that I failed to answer today, check here first. We are going to be launching a better and more improved help site in the future with even more articles on that. So stay tuned for that. This is kind of the this is kind of the placeholder for the future help center that we want. My email is personally very easy to remember. It's nate@laterpress.com. It's Nate, N-A-T-E, @laterpress.com. So feel free to send me an email as well if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to answer those following up on our session today. But let's go into my account. This is my personal Laterpress account here. This is the live, real deal thing of what an account looks like when you've got some things set up and are further into it here. And in settings, you've got your email. You can set the default reading mode. Readers can change this, but you can set how your books appear when somebody first lands on those. So I like dark mode, so I have it set up that if anybody lands on my book, unless they set a default preference to the contrary, it will appear in dark mode. And here's where you can connect your Stripe account. If you set subscriptions, we give authors the ability to set both an annual subscription and a monthly subscription. You can do both. It is not an either or choice, but it can be either or if you want it to be. So you can only offer an annual or only offer a monthly or do both. It is entirely your choice. You set what these prices are. And just like direct sales, if somebody subscribes to you who you brought in direct, we do not take any transaction fee off of that. Down here, enable author community features. There's this toggle. It will be on by default. We believe most authors would want their books being shown in recommendations, where another reader could stumble upon it and find a new book and discover a new author. If you do not want your book shown with anybody else's work, you can click this slider to turn it off. It is an all or nothing. You don't get to cherry pick which books are shown next to yours and specifically include any others. Community features are something that we're going to be iterating on and expanding on over time, because that is one of our big drivers for how we make our money. But right now, you're either in the system or you're out of the system. And we think most people would want to be in, so it is on by default. But literally, if you only want a direct sell, all you have to do is click that, and you're taken out of recommendations. Here in Profile, when you create an account, you can set your name, and we give folks the spot to link to a website. So you can link to your website, you can link to a social media of your choice, and you can write a bio about yourself. So all of these fields, as you can see, are customizable, and you can upload a headshot of yourself, or you can upload a logo here. The photo spot is not required. So if you do not have a headshot, if you do not have a logo, then you can leave this blank. And what happens then is, if you do not have any photo available, the photo feature just does not display on your profile. It will only show your name, your website, your social media profile, and your bio. It only shows whatever you have in there. But these are certain things you can set to show off. We do have reports here. I'll go ahead and be full frontal. This shows that these are my real personal stats on how much I have made so far through Laterpress specifically. You will see how many different readers you've had on your work, how many chapters people have read, and your total revenue. This is all encompassing. Now, I'm not, for people's personal data reasons, I'm not going to actually download these, but you can download payments, and that's going to show your payment history. You can download details. And what happens when you click these two things is you're going to get a CSV file of your data. And then what I personally do is I open Google Sheets and I import that data into Google Sheets and it will automatically create the spreadsheet for me. And that allows me to see, for each reader, what did they buy, how many chapters did they read, so I can see if they stop reading at a certain point. So if you're writing a serial, that can be a way to check if readers are dropping off. If you're at chapter 40 and you see a lot of people have dropped off around chapter 20, 25, you know that something's going on where you've been losing people. That report can help you see that. You would also get the email addresses for people who've made purchases from you. So if you decide, you know what, Laterpress isn't for me, I'm going to take my books down and move somewhere else, you would know who your customers are, and then can email them to let them know, hey, thank you for purchasing from me on Laterpress in the past. I wanted to let you know I'm moving my fiction over to here. We intentionally wanted Laterpress to be very easy to sign up for and very easy to leave. We want people publishing with us because they like us, because they think that things are simple and intuitive and easy to use. We did not want authors to feel chained to us, to have some sense of obligation, or feel that they are stuck. It's free to create an account. It is free to publish a book. We do not have any time commitments on how long a book has to be live. We do not have any exclusivity clauses. It is entirely up to you how you want to do things. We do have a terms of service you have to abide by, and that's on our site. Every platform is going to have their terms of service. Obviously, for example, we do not want to be the place people go to publish hate manifestos. If we saw something like that, we want to have recourse to take it down. So, of course, there is a terms of service that folks have to abide by, but 99.999% of you would not have any problem. Do what you want to do, set things up how you want to set things up. It's completely customizable to you. So right now I am on my book screen, and where you can see two different versions of how a book gets set up. These two right here are collections, and these three items are standalone books. And you can see there's different icons indicating their status. Published means a book is live right now and somebody can read it. Staged means the book is live, but at least part of it is unpublished, or there are unpublished changes. And if something is not published at all, then you will just see it as a draft. So for example, here I've got Welcome to the Nexus. I should explain what a collection is. So a collection is like an entire hub for a series. If you're writing a series like the Planner Gates, I can put all of that in one hub so everybody sees all of those books in one spot. You could use that for a bunch of short stories in a shared world to set all of them up in one collection. If you publish under different pen names, we do only have one displayed name per account. So if you're publishing under several different pen names, you would either need to create a new Laterpress account for each pen name, or what I recommend doing instead is if you're okay with one of those names being public, and it's not like you need a name to be secret, then what you could do is create collections for each of the pen names. So this is your pen name for Small Town Romance. This is your pen name for Enemies to Lovers Romance. And, if you specialize and break things down like that, then you could use collections to make that differentiation and separation easier. But in Planner Gates series here, so you can see here, published Welcome to the Nexus, published A Poison Web, the sequel. I have the Pillow Fight as a joke placeholder image for the third book in the series, The War of Gods. And I have the Lost Chapters here was going to be a freebie. You can drag and drop to move things around in order to change the way they would appear for readers. It's just that easy. And for each chapter here, you can view. If you click view, it will pop up the book as a reader would see it. And so here I am, Welcome to the Nexus, exactly as how a reader would see it. Or you can click here, edit to go into the editor, which we'll do in a moment. And here on the details page, you can upload a cover image that applies specifically to the collection as a whole. So I took the front and back cover art for my sequel because my sequel's art is amazing and even better than the first. And so I like to run with that. You can set a custom URL. It's going to end in .laterpress.com, but I can easily say, hey, go to plannergates.laterpress.com and you can find the series in one place. And we offer two different kinds of subscriptions. Besides being able to choose monthly subscriptions and annual subscriptions, you can also set what we call the default subscription, which may also be referred to as an author subscription. What that subscription is if somebody purchases from you, they get access to every book you publish on Laterpress. It is the all-encompassing subscription. A collection-only subscription only gives people access to a specific collection. So I could theoretically, if I have 3 different series, I could set up a subscription for just this series where you're only getting the Planner Gates books. I could set up a different subscription for a different series where you're only getting those books. I generally recommend to people, as far as the default subscription or collection subscriptions go, if you're going to set those up, pick one. Probably do not do both. Because how our collections work and how subscriptions work is that if somebody buys that default subscription, they get everything you publish unless it is in a collection subscription, and then that stuff is locked away. Which means you can create a scenario where you have an author subscription, but all of your books are in collections and all of those have collection subscriptions. Then somebody could buy a default subscription that gives them access to no books because they're all in collection subscriptions, and people have to subscribe to different collections to be able to access those. So that's why I say it's, you could do both if you're doing a very good job of explaining to your readers what is covered by what, but otherwise I would pick how you want to do that and stick with one. Now, our payment systems do account for this. If somebody is going to purchase a book that is in a collection or purchase an author subscription, when they get to the payment screen, they will see how many books are included in what they are buying. We did make some efforts as we revamped how our payments work to improve the languaging on that. So that problem should be largely mitigated where somebody could see that they're going to purchase an author subscription that contains 0 books because an author locked everything behind collections. So people will see that, but I wanted to make sure that people know that that is possible. So pick a subscription if you're going to set that up. But let's go into the editor here real quick. I'm checking my time so that I make sure I leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. When you go into the editor, it starts collapsed like this, and you will see publishing status. So I can see that this chapter is published, and you can move, if you can click the arrows to rearrange where chapters go in a book. I would just click the line to move things around if I need to rearrange things. I'm going to click escape to exit out of that. You can click the arrow here to expand the text and see a whole chapter, or click that again to collapse it. And you can also click up here to expand an entire book in one shot and go through and see all the text and just keep going and going and going, or again, collapse that. Authors in the editor have the same control experience that readers would for changing the font size, the background, and all of that. So we designed the editor so that what you see in the editor very, very, very closely resembles what a reader is going to see. So you don't have to wonder, what does my book look like when I hit the publish button? Because what you are seeing in the editor is what the book is going to look like when it's published. The only difference being that in our editor is designed as a continuous scroll, where the reading experience is more like an e-reader where people have to tab pages. That is the only difference. So you'll have a very good idea what you're looking at in advance. We also offer a full page mode. So if you want to go in here and write without distractions, you can, make the browser bar go away and just have a nice clean experience for editing and revising things. You can exit out of that. We have an import EPUB button where somebody can import a complete manuscript in one shot, which I will show off in a little bit here. And then in settings here, this is where you can, if you change the title of a book, you can change the title here. You cannot change the default URL once you've saved something, so you need to think that through before you make it. You set a genre here, and whether or not it's going to be part of a collection. And this is, you're not locked into this. So this is part of the Planner Gates collection because it's a book in a series. But if I wanted to make it a standalone book later, I can just change this to be a standalone, and I would need to recreate the URL, and the system will show you that you need to do that. And describe what collection you're set up into. Here's your blurb that you have for your book. And again, this can be changed so you're not stuck with it. Here in access, who can access it? Anybody who wants to come to can read it. You can also, if you have subscriptions set up, you can set them up so that only somebody who subscribes to you can read it. So if you're trying to use Laterpress for a subscription model in place of Patreon or other similar sites, then you could set things up for subscribers only. You set what the price is for non-subscribers. You set up how much you're selling. So this here, I have this set up as $4.99. You get the entire book. I could change this to $4.99 for 20 chapters. And then after reading 20 chapters, you need to pay $4.99 again to get another 20 chapters. So if somebody is serializing and you're writing something as a dedicated serial, you could set things up that way. But for this, I'm doing this as a finished book. You decide how long the free preview is. So I'm giving people 4 chapters until they would have to pay. And then here for download ebook, if you click the blue text here, you would download the exact file that readers can download. So you can quality control what people are seeing. It is going to be the exact same file you upload. So if you upload, if you're publishing on Amazon and you upload the same EPUB that you gave to Amazon, it's going to be no different from readers who download it, purchasing from you directly through Laterpress than as if they bought it from Kindle. We're giving folks the same file. If you want to get rid of it, you could just click the red X here, and that's going to delete the file. If you want to swap out the file, you can click the blue cloud icon here and upload a new file in its place. If you are writing within our editor and then want to take text out and publish it elsewhere, you can click this button here to export everything that's in the editor as a docx file. And now you have the raw text that you can import into Atticus or Vellum or somewhere else for final book publishing and formatting, if you're using us for serializing and then taking fiction elsewhere. We also have an optional custom numbering feature. When you turn this on, what happens is that the text here becomes editable. So see how this here says chapter 1? That would actually say chapter 2 by default because I had this in here. But I was, with custom numbering turned on, I was able to part 1 here. So you can use that custom numbering for things like prologue, epilogue, about the author, also by the author, foreword, introduction, dedication. There's a lot of different things that you could want to put in a part of a book's matter, where with custom numbering turned on, you can then explain what that is. It does create a little more work because now, but the default chapter numbering is off. This would say chapter 2. I had to manually tell it that it's chapter 1. This would be chapter 3. I had to manually go in there and tell it it's chapter 2. So there was a little extra work I had to do to make it pretty, but that allowed me to set things up so that, at the end of the book, let me see, I don't know if I cut this out of the live version or not. Let's see here. So here I've got epilogue 2 days later, acknowledgments about the author. So I left those alone, but I could have put custom numbering in there to explain what those look like. And so that's kind of working around in the editor a little bit. And now one thing I want to do before I go over to questions and start looking for questions some more is I want to show how quick and easy it can be to upload a book. I'm going to give you a caveat before I do a live speed run here, that when I say how fast it is, I'm just talking about the minimum process necessary to create a book, get it live, make it readable. If you want to do a little bit of additional cleanup, it can take a little bit longer than that. But if you just want to get a book live as fast as possible, it can be done in under 2 minutes. And that is what I'm going to show you here. So let's add a book, and I'm going to make this a standalone book. Let's call it Welcome to the Nexus. And I've got my blurb here. I want to copy my blurb and paste my blurb into the description box. This is epic fantasy, and I'm going to go into Mibble art here, and here is my ebook cover. Bam. Okay, I'm done. Add book. So now here's Welcome to the Nexus. It starts blank. I go into the editor. I'm going to import an EPUB, and that is not the actual version. Here's this. Add the file. Yes, I want people to be able to download it. 1001, 1002, 1003. It just imported the entire book. You can see right here. Here's all of my text. Now I'm going to go over here into settings, and I'm going to say this is Planner Gates PG1 for the first book in the Planner Gates series. So pg1.laterpress.com. Welcome to the Nexus. Anybody can read it. I want $4.99 for the entire ebook. Folks can have 4 chapters for free. And save all of that. Go back here. Oops. Here. Publish. I don't think that's saved. PG1. I'm not going to notify my readers because I don't want people to realize that I'm publishing a book that I'm just going to take down and publish. And now if I go back here, click View. Welcome to the Nexus. There's the blurb. Somebody can download the book. Somebody can read now. Let's log out of my account for the sake of viewing this here. And you can see that the book is live. I had the 4-chapter free preview. When someone hits this, they're prompted to log in and pay. But they can go to chapter 1 and just start reading. That whole thing took 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. And now where I say there could be additional cleanup involved is, I don't have custom numbering turned on here. So this is chapter 3, but it shows chapter 2. The EPUB file I created using Atticus puts the chapter number in front of all of the chapters. So for the real version that I had here, I had to go through and manually delete all of the numbers that Atticus put in the formatting. And I went through and custom numbering, and I manually changed all of that. All of that manual cleanup probably made the process take somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes total. But if you don't have that level of cleanup, I just wanted to show I literally got a book up in sub 2 minutes. So if you've got a large backlog of books, if you've got 10, 15, 20 books that you were trying to get live, I personally could, it's not, if you're just starting out and you're learning the platform, it's probably not going to go that fast. But knowing what I know and being as practiced as I am with our editors and tools, if I had to publish 20 books and get them live, I could get that entire backlist up in under an hour. So I wanted to show that speed run to show people it's not that complicated to get books set up, get them live, start selling them. Now let's say that I'm going to unpublish this book now. And unpublishing a book is as simple as clicking the publish button and going unpublish. Do I want to unpublish this? Yes. The book is no longer live. People can't find it and read it online. So it's very easy to take down a book if you decide you want to. A couple clicks of a mouse. Now, let's say I am serializing this book, and let's pretend that this book isn't done, that I'm still working on it, for example, or releasing a chapter a week. You can go in here, and on a per chapter level, when you click this button, you've got delete a specific chapter, export that one chapter as a Word document, or publish a chapter. So I can click publish the chapter. And do I want to do it immediately, or do I want to schedule it for later? I want to schedule it for later. Let's say tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. And this is your local time. So whatever your local time is, that way you don't have to worry about time conversions. And do you want readers to be sent an email notification if they have opted into that when you publish? By default, that's going to be on. Since this is not for real, I'm going to turn that off. But now I can click publish. And now this is automatically set to publish tomorrow at the time I chose. Now, if I want to publish another one, let's go publish this, schedule for later. So that one we had set up for June 30. So now I want to set one up for July 1st. Same deal, publish. So now I've got, this chapter for tomorrow, this chapter for the day after. I could schedule a third chapter. So you could systematically go through the book, pick a day at a time, and create your own schedule for when all of these chapters are going to drop. And once you've set that, you don't have to worry about it anymore. So if you publish a chapter a week and you've got your 3 chapters ahead and you have the buffer, you can set up those chapters for when you want them to release, and then it's going to happen. You don't have to think about it anymore. You can keep writing, and the chapters will release on the time you've set. So you can easily do that manually for every chapter. You can also do a pseudo pre-order system where if you want to publish an entire book, like let's say I set these chapters up for those specific times, I can schedule the entire book to publish at a specific time. July 4th, let's say 10:30 a.m., hit publish. And now, when I did that, it changed everything that hasn't published yet. So you may want to wait on how you do that. But if you've got a few chapters live, like let's say you're doing a free previews, tell everybody, hey, the book's going to be available on July 4th. If these chapters are live, then scheduling publication is not going to change that. So you could have a live preview and then publish the rest of the book at a time of your choosing. So that scheduled publication allows for a lot of flexibility with that. And I will show this off because it's live. This is going to be the last thing I show off before I go to Q&A. Over here in the storybook, this would be a feature for people who are using the writing experience or writing through us. there's different tabs you can use. We do have some AI integrations for this. The AI features are still in closed beta, but AI use is not required for any of these. In the idea tab, you could type in your notes for the main purpose of your story, the overall plot summary, anything to keep yourself on focus there. You can create character cards with your protagonist, antagonist, their name, a paragraph summary about who they are, and a few physical attributes. So if you are drafting in Laterpress, you can use this system to leave notes for yourself in the editor that you can easily click back and refer to as you're going. You can also add lore cards on a similar detail, leaving yourself notes about alien and fantasy races, creatures, cultures, magic, religion, technology, other, so that you have all of your notes in the editor to refer back to whenever you want to. Again, if you are using chat, or if you're using Laterpress as your editing platform or writing platform while you're serializing. And then we have the assistant feature, which would be like creating a custom ChatGPT window where you decide what context gets fed into it. So you can give it chapters of text to look at, character notes, lore notes, anything. And then this functions on retrieval augmented generation, is looking at your content to help you answer questions. If you forgot what a character's hair color is or eye color, you could, instead of trying to figure out what chapter you wrote that in, you could ask the question, the AI will scan your book and give you the answer. And now all of that is a closed ecosystem. None of your story data gets fed back into ChatGPT or used for training. We are very clear about that, that whether you use the AI features or not, those are always optional, and your data does not get used for training or anything. But it is able to help look at your book, save you from trying to figure out what page you wrote a specific thing on. So if you wanted to use that for help while drafting, that is available to you. But if that does not interest you, it is completely ignorable. So that is kind of an overview of a lot of the perks and features of Laterpress in a nutshell here. And now I'm going to go over to my webcam here and take a look at the chat. And we've got time for some Q&A here. So throw your questions in here, and I will try to answer as many as I possibly can. J.K. Lambo, can you add chapter headers for different genres? I'm not sure specifically what you're looking for, or what you would mean by that question. The custom numbering feature lets you create different names for chapters, like prologue, epilogue, etc. So you can create your own labeling system and name for that, which I think could help with things. And we give people, in the settings, the ability to set a genre, but I'm not sure what else you'd be looking for there. Question from Leon Newton: what opportunities or challenges do you think authors face when publishing their work through platforms like Lulu, Smashwords, or other self-publishing ecosystems? I think they're going to be pretty similar across the self-publishing space, I think, in that the opportunities come with the nature of being self-publishing and being indie, that you have greater creative control over what your books are. You have greater creative control over how you choose to market them and what you say about your books. And when you are going direct, you have the greater revenue. But some of those platforms, if they're not big platforms like, Amazon is the 10-ton gorilla in the room. Everybody has heard about Amazon. Everybody knows about Amazon. If you go to smaller platforms, Laterpress included, you are going to have a little bit more education to do with readers about, here's how this platform works, here's why I'm using it, and here's the benefits. You may have to do a little bit more onboarding to get people into an ecosystem, because it's not a super ubiquitous thing. Like, none of us have to explain how Amazon works because everybody knows how Amazon works. But for any platform that is not Amazon, you kind of have to do some education probably with some of your readers. Inca York, is bulk scheduling on the agenda so we can schedule an entire book to go out once a week? or several specific days a week. You can schedule an entire book to go out at once. As far as multiple books go, we do not have one master schedule where you can set up, you can run through that scheduling flow once and get 5 books to go live. That would be an interesting thing to do. That's not currently on our roadmap. What I would say right now is that you need to upload each book individually and then go through the scheduling flow one by one to set up when they go live. So if you want to release 5 books live on the same day, you would need to go through that flow 5 times just to make up an example. What is Laterpress's policy on spicy romance? Not erotica, just romance. When in doubt, check our terms of service or ask us, questions in our Discord. Email me if you have any specific concerns about your stories and whether you might not run afoul of terms of service. But in general, erotica and spicy romance are allowed. So you can publish those here. That is not a problem. Question from Denise West. Where do you promote? Are you talking about where does Laterpress promote, or if you are an author using Laterpress, where do you promote? I'm going to go that direction with the question. If you are an author using Laterpress, where would you promote? The books are live. They're browser-based. You have a link that you can send to anybody to say, oh, here's where my book is. So as an author using Laterpress, what I would do is, if you have a newsletter or are building a newsletter, great place to send them links. You say, you can buy my books direct from me here, or I am serializing the book through Laterpress. Here's how you find it. And you can send out links to your newsletter through your social media. Any place where you can send a link, you'd be able to drop that so that people can find it. You could set up ads if you wanted to, running to that specific link so that people click that and boom, your book pops up and they're reading right away. Those are the sorts of things that I would probably do. Is there a formatting feature in the new Laterpress editor? By the way, I noticed paid features for book promotion. Can you expand? I'm not sure, Leon, what you mean about paid features for book promotion. That is not a part of our business plan. We do not want to be paid to play or create an ecosystem where, the top rankings or anything show up for people who are willing to pay for that privilege. So if someone is going around saying Laterpress will promote your book for a fee, I would want to know about that because that's not what we're telling people. As far as editing or formatting features go, we do not have any fancy formatting features. We have some within our own editor, like at the custom numbering and things I showed up, that will change how it displays for readers. And we give people the option to download their text as a docx file so that you can take that to Atticus or Vellum or Readsy and have it formatted elsewhere for how you would want it to be as an EPUB or a paperback. But we don't have those kind of features built into Laterpress specifically. Question from A.F. Stewart. Are images imported into Laterpress with the EPUB, chapter headings, and things like that? That is a very good question. I am glad you asked that. Thank you for that, because that is an important thing to let folks know about the current state of our editor. Right now, when somebody imports an EPUB, the cover image is okay, but our system does not support other images. So if you are going to import an EPUB with lots of images in it or fancy chapter fancy chapter headers, that can create problems for our system where your import EPUB may snag and it may not be uploaded properly. So what I would recommend is uploading a file that does not have image assets in it beyond the cover image. And images don't display in the online reader. Image support is something we want to add eventually, and that is one of the things that is in our longer term roadmap. But if you're writing nonfiction that has graphs and charts in it, or you've got fantasy with world maps and things like that in it, that will cause problems in importing an EPUB. So I would recommend stripping those out of that file for the import. I would have to check if you can still just direct upload it to make it available for downloads, but generally I steer clear of image heavy files. Does Laterpress have the ability to introduce and market new authors in respective genres ecosystems? When our app comes out, that will be for phones. That's going to be one avenue towards expanding our reach with readers directly and making things easier for readers directly. But as I said earlier, I do tell folks to approach Laterpress with the expectation that you are going to be the primary driver of traffic on your books. And that's why we take 0%. We also have no exclusivity clauses. And so somebody could use Laterpress at the same time that you're publishing on Amazon, as long as you don't violate any of Amazon's policies. You could publish through us and have Substack running if that's what you wanted to do. You could publish on Royal Road as making chapters available for free. And then say, if you want to support me, here's the Laterpress version where you can subscribe and get chapters in advance. So maybe you have chapters available on Laterpress, 10, 20 chapters ahead of what people could read for free to create incentive for people to subscribe to you that way. That would be a good way to do that. And I think we are out of time here. It looks like it's 1 o'clock. I do not want to be disrespectful to our wonderful show hosts and overstay my welcome. So we'll wrap things up here to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. I hope this was helpful. Again, my email is nate@laterpress.com. If I did not answer your question today, if there's more you would like to know, feel free to send me an email and I would be happy to respond. There is a link you can click as well on our front Laterpress site to schedule a demo with me. So it is on the front page. Turning on my stream here. So if you see here, publish now, it's free, or schedule a call. If you click that link, you can book an appointment with me to talk one-on-one as well, if you would prefer that over email. So there's a few different ways to get a hold of me. I am happy to chat with you and answer any questions. But otherwise, I will wrap that up here today, so I'm not going over my time. And I want to thank you all. Hope you have enjoyed the AuthorTube web conference and learned a lot, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.